Hello everyone, hope you're doing good, and I'm happy to see you here again this week. We made it like a bit earlier this week. Uh, sorry about that. If we get more visitors and more interaction, we'll keep it at the same date, at the same time. Sorry. So let's see how it goes. I'll keep an eye on the comments. Hello Brian, hope you're doing good. As usual, we'll start with the Forex ones. Let me share my screen. And then the indices, last but not least, crypto instruments. So let's do it. Here we go. So here's my usual watch list, a couple of Forex pairs. Then we'll go over a couple of indices, last but not least, the crypto ones. So feel free to request any Forex pair, index, or crypto instrument, or asset, coin, token, whatever you want to call it, and I would be happy to do it. I'll keep an eye on the comments. So after every couple of analysis, I will check the comments out. And of course, also feel free to ask any questions. I would be happy to answer it. And don't forget to like this video as it will help members and traders see it. And it will help Trading Nut channel. So let me fix my camera real quick and let's do it. Let's start with the DXY as usual to feel the overall market, to know where we are in the market. Okay, gold. Of course, we'll go over gold. Alden, happy to see you here. Let's get started. And as usual, cheers. Okay, I'll start with DXY and I'll check the comments again. As we clearly see, as mentioned last week, we are currently inside a big range. We can see it very clearly, just like previously, for example. We can see that we were in a range, and then last but not least, price broke it upward. This range becomes then after the break a support area before we trade higher again. The same thing happened around this area, inside the range, trading it upward and downward until eventually it's broken upward, and now the upper bound of the range became a support area. So we are currently inside a very similar market condition around this range here, and we are trading the range down, up, down, up. So now we're expecting a bearish movement from here. Of course, we can't see, if we will get this deep correction movement till here. But first, we can expect a rejection from the upper bound, of course, unless broken upward, then it would become a support, just like here and previously here as well. Okay, but let's take it step by step, right? So around the upper bound, around this area, we are expecting a bearish movement from here, a bearish leg. If you zoom into weekly time frame, we can see it even better, especially after this candle. If you remember last week, we went over the XY as well, because I always start with the XY USD index to feel the overall market. We had this big bearish candle engulfing the previous two candles, which give us a pretty much good idea that the bears are finally kicking in. That's why, as mentioned, on the retest of it, we'll be looking for sell setups, because now the momentum is shifted from bullish to bearish. As you clearly see, this is the biggest correction of all. If you check the previous ones, look at how big this correction is. And if you zoom into daily time frame, this is the first time where we have a clear break below the previous low. If we check previously, as you can see, high lows, high lows, high lows, and this is the first time where we see a break below it. That's why we speculated that now we are in a bearish trend. We've got our impulse responsible of the break of the previous low, of the shift in momentum, and now on the retest of it, it would be a correction, and we'll be looking for the next impulse movement to push lower. So, which means that we are looking for buy setups on Euro USD, for example, sell setups on USD CHF, and so on. Okay. That's why it's very important to start with the DXY. We've got the first rejection area, which would be around this previous low, acting as a potential short-term resistance now. And we might also dive a little bit inside this resistance before we trade lower. So that's basically it on the XY. If you zoom in a little bit, we can see that the correction has started, as mentioned last week, after a break above the high. So last week we were here, I guess, and we mentioned that we would be overall bearish until the bulls managed to break above the last major high. So we had this break. Now the correction is confirmed, and we are waiting for the next bearish impulse movement lower. So it would be, if I zoom out, you can see it better. So an impulse correction before the next impulse movement start. As mentioned, it can start from here, or we can still dive inside this area before trading lower. So how do we know that when the impulse is about to start? The exact opposite logic of what we did here. So when this high is broken upward, the correction started. Now we are following the same logic. We want a major low to be broken downward for the impulse movement to start. We can even draw a trend line, for example, just like previously. So bullish, bearish, and we are currently bullish. Let's make an offset for it. This is it, right? So we are waiting for this, and then after a break below it, we would confirm the start of the bearish impulse movement lower. Meanwhile, we can still trade higher and higher, dive inside this resistance before we trade lower. That's why we don't sell blindly. We always wait for extra confirmation to confirm that the sellers are finally taking over before the next impulse movement starts. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Next, of course, we'll do EUR/USD, which is exactly the opposite. So we can clearly see that while the XY is approaching a support, EUR/USD is approaching a resistance. And look at how strong the support is, around the 100.5. It's a very strong support area. If you zoom in lower, you can see that it's also a demand zone, as we had an aggressive movement outward from it. And it's also the round number 100. So that's indeed a very strong area to expect that a bullish movement would happen from here. It might be just a correction, so impulse correction before breaking below it, or we might see a full reversal from here. Anyway, let's take it step by step, right? Around this area, now we are speculating a bearish movement on the XY. Now let's go for EUR/USD, which is exactly the opposite. Like that's why I like to do it right after the XY. We can see that the XY is retesting the previous low, while EUR/USD is retesting the previous high. So exactly the opposite. If you zoom out to weekly time frame, we can see that, or monthly, we can see it better. We have the support area from weekly time frame. If you zoom out, you can see it very clearly. We were trading inside this big channel, and we are currently around the lower bound, expecting this movement. Of course, for price to reach this far, we need to break this resistance, and so on. Okay, so we're looking for buy setups here, sell setups here, and here we go, buy setups, and so on, right? But let's take it step by step for now. We are around the lower band. We were looking, if you remember, last week and the week before it, because I always have the XY and USD on my watch list. We were looking for buy setups here, if you remember, last week and 2 weeks previously. And now we are approaching this area. The reason why it's a very strong area is because it's a supply zone, right? An aggressive movement downward, the exact opposite of the XY. On the XY, we have what? We have a demand zone, right? So on USD, we have a supply zone, and it's also a support and resistance. If you zoom out, we can see it even better. So that's basically it. Unless we break above it, it will become a support, and we'll be looking for a trend following buy setup. We would have this bullish trend, because now we are clearly bullish from daily time frame after breaking above this high. So we would have this impulse correction, impulse breaking upward. In this case, we'll be looking for the next impulse movement after this correction. Again and again, let's take it step by step. As I mentioned last week, if you remember, I'm not interested in looking for setups here, right? What I want from you, I guess we were here last week on USD, like I guess today we are too, like, yes, we were around this area last week. And I mentioned that I don't want to look for setups here. We know that we have a resistance, but I want the price to dive inside this resistance to look for setups, which is also a supply zone from daily, or to go lower after the correction starts, because we will have the impulse correction, and then I'll be catching this impulse, because I want some room. I don't want to buy here and then we have this supply or resistance. So don't ever look for buy stock. And even though price can still break the resistance upward and trade higher in an aggressive manner, but it's better not to buy around the resistance because you don't have an edge over the market around that resistance. So like if you are in a range, you don't want to buy around the upper bound or above the mean or the black if you want the middle. Okay, so we want to look for buys at least below the mean, around this, starting from this area and so on. So if you want, USD is trading inside in this case, like to give you an example, inside this box. So I don't want to buy around the upper band. That's why I'm waiting for a deep retester here to look for buy. And I'll start to look for buy stop starting from here because this is a possible potential support area. So I'll start to look for buy stops from here, knowing that we can still dive lower before we trade higher, which is the best case scenario in my opinion. Now, if we zoom lower, we can see that we are currently trading inside a big range. If we break it lower, if we break this entire range, which is also this zone from daily, we would definitely be trading lower. In this case, we'll be looking for a bullish reversal here. Okay. So, and yeah, we might have a big impulse movement from here, but in this case, I'll be waiting for a new swing high to form around this trend line here. So, like it might be here, it might be, like, that doesn't really matter, but I want a major swing high to be broken upward. Then and only then I'll be buying USD because we can reach like 1 or even 2 hours before reaching the upper area. So, in this case, let's say we formed this swing here, we'll buy here, the stop loss will be here, and yes, we can still reach like our 2 hour so I want to do this to reward ratio before reaching the upper area. It would be a trend following setup, rejecting this minor previous high if you want, and we'll be looking for buy. Meanwhile, we will not buy. USD can still trade lower, break this area, trade even lower. In this case, we'll be looking for buy setups here, which is, in my opinion, the best case scenario. If we go lower, if you remember, also we had USD JPY on our watch list last week. We also had CSL JPY, EuroCAD. We also had, yes, gold, I guess, right? So on USD JPY, because like let's go over first the USD pairs, and if you want, let's put gold here, like next to the USD pairs. And on USD JPY, if you remember, we were around this lower area, which is our previous low. And as mentioned, we have had support here, which is a very, very strong support. If you check it out from monthly time frame, you can see how strong this support is, acting as a resistance previously multiple times, finally broken up with an aggressive candle and momentum candle, and now trading inside this giant channel impulse, and we're expecting a correction from here. This is a very strong support that might push the price higher till this area. In this case, we'll also be looking for sell. So long story short, on USJPY, I'll be looking for sell here, I'll be looking for buy stops here, for sell setups here, and so on. Right? So that's very important to know where you are currently in the market, in which, if you want to call it, floor, right? To know what to look for. So zoom out picture, weekly, daily, monthly, even where we are. We zoom into H1 and 30, or even whatever like time frame you would like to zoom in. But first, like no matter what strategy you are applying, no matter your trading style, always start from the higher time frames because you want to see the big picture. You want to see where you are in the market before you know what to look for. Because half of the work is done from higher time frames. Because like you are looking for a sell or a buy, right? So you want to know what to look for. Once you know what to look for, like half the work is done. You simply zoom in and look for only, for example, buy setups and so on. So for now, in JPY, if you remember last week, we were looking for buy stops here around the previous low and the support area. We were waiting for the bulls to take over by breaking above this wedge pattern in red and the symmetrical triangle in orange. So I guess last week we were around this area and we were waiting for price to invalidate like these trend lines and break above the major high. So which happened, as you can see. So you could have entered a buy setup, a buy entry here. The stop loss could be below this low or below this low, and it depends on your trading style. And we target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. So for now, as you can see, we are currently inside this big range. You can see it very clearly if you zoom out. So we are currently here, right? So I don't want to look for sell setups in the middle of nowhere. If we trade a little bit higher now, we would be testing these highs here, which is also a supply zone. In this case, it would be an amazing area to look for sell setup. So for now, I'll keep it on my watch list, but it's no longer red. I'll mark it in green, for example. That as price is still approaching an area we don't really have a setup for yet. Of course, we can still trade higher before to reach this area. before we trade lower, or if we retest this support area, of course, we'll be looking for buy stops just like we did previously. Gold. Let me check the comments before we go for gold. Hi, do you trade with a written plan with rules? Yes, exactly, Rob. Exactly, Rob. I have a well-defined trading plan, and that's written on a big piece of paper, and recommend that everyone do that. Okay, you will have to have a well-defined trading plan to know what to look for, when, where, and why. Okay, so if you don't have a trading plan, keep on trading on a demo account until you come up with a trading plan. Apply it at least for a couple of months. If you find good results, and of course, before like you build your trading plan, you have to back test it and tweak it and blah blah blah, right? Then apply it on a like you need to back test it, then forward test it for a couple of months before you apply it on a live account. Okay. Okay, Adnan Kasal, hello, hope you're doing good. Indicator free. I'm not really sure about which indicator. If you mean the HTL, which you can see here, which is here, you can see at the bottom of the screen. To get it, you will get $100 discount if you get it from here. If you know about it from here, and you can check the website down there. Okay, like basically what HTL does, like it's not from space, like it will not give us alerts to buy and sell. It's not a signal indicator. It's just like to help us make objective and rule-based technical analysis. So I use it to draw support and resistance, trend lines, and so on in an objective manner by connecting these dots, red and blue, and so on. Okay. Hi, what's your average RR and win rate? Hello, James. Hope you're doing good. Okay, I've been using this style for like 6 or 7 years now, and what I can tell you is that I have a minimum of 50% win rate on average. Like sometimes 60, and depends on the period of time. But like over these years, I have a 50% win rate, and I'm targeting 1 to 3 R. Okay, but not like in these videos, as you can see, I'm going for 1 to 2. So like anyway, let's go for 1 to 2, right? So here we go. So like 1 to 2. So like on average, of course, out of 10 trades, you lose 5, you win 5. So the 5 that you win will make you 10% if you enter 1% risk per trade, and the 5 that you lose, you will lose minus 5%. So like out of 10 trades, even with a 50% win rate, you are still doing great, because you are making 5 winning trades times 2R. You got like 10R, which is like, of course, if you enter with like 1%, your R would be 1%, right? So like 2% target, and then you make 10%. And if you lose 5 times 1R, or like 1% or 2%, depends on how much you are risking per trade, you are losing minus 5R. So plus 5, plus 10R, plus 5R, plus 10R, minus 5R, you are still making 5R. Okay, so that's delete these ones and go for gold. Check the comments one last time. Okay, fantastic. Let's take a little break. Cheers. And let's move forward. Okay, gold. Okay, on gold, as mentioned last week, we also like went over it. We are overall bearish, right? We know that because we got our impulse, correction, impulse, and we are currently in this correction phase. And we've got a supply zone around this area, so price can still trade a little bit higher, test it before we trade lower again. And for now, this is our last major high. So until the bulls manage to break above it, we are still bearish, and this would be just a correction before the next bearish impulse movement start. We can see it even better from H4 time frame. We can see an overall channel just for all direction of the flow of the market. We are currently in a correction phase, as you clearly see impulse, the wrong one. So impulse, correction, impulse, and we are currently here waiting for the bears to take over again to expect the next impulse movement up, downward, knowing that we might still trade a little bit, dive inside this area, this resistance, and meet the upper trend line like around this area before we trade lower. That's why we don't sell blindly, no matter how strong a resistance is, no matter if you are bearish and the bearish trend is very strong. Don't sell blindly, always look for extra confirmation, zoom into lower time frames, wait for the bears to take over, and so on. Okay, so that's basically it. This is our last high which we saw from daily time frame. This is it. So we are bearish until we see a break above it. In this case, the bulls would reclaim the support area because now it's acting as a resistance. Obviously, this is the last low here, broken downward. Now the price is retesting it, was acting as a resistance previously, broken upward and broken downward. So now it's still acting as a resistance area. That's why we are looking for trend following sell setups on gold. Again and again, I mentioned it many times already. Until we see this, then we'll be looking for bar setups on the retest. We would have a new bullish trend, and price or the bulls would reclaim the support again. So that's basically it. On weekly time frame, on H4 time frame, we broke below this previous low, and now it's an alert that the bears are taking over. We've got our impulse correction, impulse. We are currently in this correction. That's why we'll be looking for sell setups on lower time frames, knowing that we can still break it upward, test this area before we trade lower, as mentioned from daily. But now we are looking for sell setups. If we zoom into lower time frames, we can even zoom even lower. I'm waiting for the last major low to be broken downward on gold, just like previously here, for example. So I'm waiting for like any bearish setup, like a double top, 1 to 3 pattern, head and shoulders, or like whatever, a trend line maybe. For example, we'll have this trend line here. Here we go, and like a wedge pattern. So I'm looking for any bearish reversal setup here to like finally say that the bears are taking over again to start the next bearish impulse movement lower. When this happens, right, the stop loss would be above the previous high. Oops, here we go, above the previous high, and the target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, or you can even go for 1 to 3. It depends on you, but like for these videos, I'll go for the basic 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. Okay, so this is basically it. Let me check the comments one more time. Knowing that until this happens, gold would be overall bullish, can still trade higher and higher. That's why we look always for extra confirmation, can still trade higher. And in this case, if this happens, we are still looking for sell setups unless we finally see a break above this high here from daily time frame and above this trend line. In this case, we'll be looking for buy setups on the retest. What was the biggest lesson you had to learn to become consistently profitable? Do you think people are searching for a greedy risk to reward? Okay, so like I really like the way you are thinking. I guess like your questions are very very precise, which I really like this kind of questions. So okay, like once you understand that the market can do anything at any point of time, that you don't have control on the market, that no matter how many times you lose, okay, you can still make profit over the long run if you follow a very strict trading plan with a positive risk to reward ratio. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much you know. If you apply moving average, if you apply Fibonacci, if you apply I don't know what, right? So you've got like hundreds and hundreds of strategies, indicators here. You can go for like a bunch of indicators, right? Here we go, right? And you can go for like these ones here, Gantt square and Fib channel, and right. So we've got plenty of areas. But in my opinion, I like to keep it as simple as possible because you can't really know where the market would go. No matter what strategy you are doing, we are just risk managers. Our main job as traders is to know where we have an edge over the market. That's why first of all I start from higher time frames. So like this is a very important lesson that I learned the hard way that I didn't care previously about higher time frames. So okay, I want to keep it as simple as possible. I only want to check the H1. When a high is broken, I want to enter a buy and blah blah blah. Right? So like later on, okay, now I'm entering a buy, but price like is reversing and immediately I'm trading lower, because not every high is broken upward, it means that we will have a reversal. Because if you are overall bearish, if the high is broken upward, it means that the correction is about to start before the next impulse movement starts. Because the price trade an impulse correction, right? So, and this idea, this impulse, you will have a high being broken upward. So like we are basically looking for a buy of like a correction, while instead you should be looking for a sell to catch the next impulse movement lower. So this is very important to have an edge over the market. You know, you have to know where you are, or you are around a resistance area. And like here we go, we have a bearish trend. The high is broken up, so I don't want to buy around the resistance. Okay, that's why it's very important to start from higher time frame to know where you are. So like our main job as a trader is to identify our edge. We can gain this edge from two things. The first one is from technical analysis. Okay, so where we are in the market, I'm looking for bus stops here. So here I have like an edge over the market that the probabilities are, because we can't really know, price can still break it downward, but around the lower bound, or if you are overall bullish, right? Now we are here. Now here the chance here, for example, and here, okay, that the price would go more up than down. Of course, we can still break it downward, but like at least we have like 70% chance or like 60% chance. Anyway, no matter what, I want an edge over 50%, right? That here price would go like the odds are it will go more up than down. That's our first edge. The second edge is through risk management. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many times you win. Okay, what matters is how much you win when you win and how much you lose when you lose. Okay, so as mentioned previously, now since you asked me previously, even with a 50% win rate, if you have a 1 to 2 risk to reward, 1 to 3, but like 1 to 2 is still fine, you are still doing great over the long run. So this is basically it. So now I'm expecting that I don't mind if I end in 10 trades, I'm expecting 5 losing trades. So once you know your trading plan and like what are the expectations, like I know that, okay, I might lose 5 out of 10 trades, but I don't really care. If I trust my trading plan, I made a backtest of like 100 trades, I have 1K trades. I know that it's fine if I lose 5 trades, because I know that over the long run, out of 100 trades, I'll be winning 50 trades on an average, right? So this is very important. Once like yeah, you don't really care about what the market will do, okay, and then like you don't really care about if you are right or wrong, okay, like this is very important. We can't really know what might happen next. All we have control on is our risk. All we have control on is to try to find an edge over the market, and no matter what happens next, and stick to a training plan, repeat and repeat. Okay, so this is basically it. Always interesting to watch other strategies and learn from it. Fantastic, Owen. Great, glad to have you here today. Rob, fantastic answer. I'm glad that it made sense to you. So let's take a sip after this, like 30 minutes talking straight, and let's move forward. Okay, so we have an ad here. So want to become famous by viewers? Yeah. Okay. So that this is it for gold. Let's go for CHF JPY. The reason why I added this particular trade, and because if you remember, we had it on our watch list last week, and we were looking for sell setups. I insist always on the word looking, okay? Because no matter how strong a resistance, no matter how strong a supply, Fibonacci retracement, trend line, like whatever rejection you are going after, no matter how strong it is, it can still be broken upward. So we don't ever sell blindly around a resistance. or buy blindly around the support. We always zoom in, look for extra confirmation. Because like if you remember last week, we mentioned that okay, we had this big impulse movement lower, breaking below this previous low. On the retest of it, we'll be looking for sell setups, knowing that, as I always say, knowing that we can still break it upward, test the upper area before trading lower again. Okay, and which is exactly what happened. However, we didn't sell. Okay, because like last week we were here, if you remember, and we were waiting. Sorry about that. Let me give me a sec. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so we're waiting for extra confirmation for the best to take over, right? And then we can sell. However, it didn't happen. We kept trading it higher. So let's delete it and update our analysis. Now we are still sitting around a resistance area. We can clearly see that we've got like if you want a supply zone, not quite a resistance, because we don't really have many attempts to break below it. We've got a massive supply zone, and it's also the all-time high. So no matter how much you zoom out, you can't really see it, right? And at least from like 1993. Okay, it's like this is the highest point that this one has reached, right? And price is currently retesting it. We've got two supply zones and like forming a big supply. The first one is here. The second one is obviously the all-time high. We can see it from weekly time frame better. Here we go. We had a gap here previously and also an aggressive movement downward. You previously had this supply that price already filled and traded lower. So this is, of course, a very strong supply, and price is currently sitting around this area. Moreover, if you zoom into daily time frame, we also had an aggressive movement down from here. So that's why we are looking for the setups. We've got a supply from weekly, a gap, and a supply from daily time frame. That's why we're still looking for such setups. Now, if we zoom in lower, okay, as I mentioned previously, we broke this one now. If we zoom into M30 time frame, we can see that we are currently trading. Okay, let me delete this one. Okay, so we are currently trading above this trend line. We also have a trend line here. Okay, and just to show us the overall view. But this trend line, the lower one, is definitely stronger because it's connecting so many like swings. Okay, so like this is why I went for it. And of course, like from a shorter term perspective, for the best to take over, we need to see a break below this low here. Okay, but from a longer term perspective, to have a shift in momentum, a bearish trend from bullish to bearish to catch this big leg down, we need to see this happening as you saw previously from the drawing. So this is basically it. Okay. And when this happens, like of course, this one can be formed here, can be formed like around this area, but we want a shift in momentum because for now, this trend line is showing us the overall bias, the overall flow. So I want the bears to prove to me that they are strong enough to finally break it downward and make this shift. Okay, so as you can see, the buyers are very aggressive, resulting in an aggressive higher high. So I want to see this. I want to see lower highs and so on, and then a break below it. Okay, so this is why I'm waiting for this to happen. When this happens, if this happens around the supply, looking for sell setups. If this happens, stop us above the previous high, and we target a 1 to 2 ratio, or you can even target more. It depends on your trading plan, risk appetite. Like if you are a swing trader, scalper, blah blah blah, you can pick like a strategy that suits you best. Of course, no matter what strategy you are using, no matter which type of trader you are, always start from the higher time frame. Like no matter if you want to zoom into M15, right? Always start from the from the big picture, and like you only do it once per week, right? So like if you check the weekly chart, like you only draw it once because like for like to have updates, you only have to wait a whole week to have like one more candle. So like do it anyway, but and like you will do it only once. Okay, so always start from high time frame and then zoom in lower. Okay, from a shorter term perspective, if you want to zoom in lower, we have this channel now. You can even make an offset for it like this. Here we go. And then, like from a short-term perspective, this is the last low that we need a break below it to expect this bearish impulse, and then we'll see this from a longer-term perspective. Okay, next we've got EuroCAD, and like if you remember, we had it on our watch list last week. So like let's do it real quick. We know that we are around this resistance zone. We can see it even better from daily time frame. Look at how clean and strong this area is. Previously, multiple lows, broken downward resistance multiple times. Again, if you zoom even out, you can see that it's also a long-term resistance area. Here we go. We can see it from weekly time frame. Resistance previously, support. But anyway, we saw it better from lower time frame, from daily time frame. So last week, so like Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. So we were Friday, and this is it. So we were here during the last session. As mentioned, we were looking for the setups. Of course, as price approaches this lower bound, which is also a demand zone, we'll be looking for buy setups, right? So here we go. And like if you remember, I also showed you the view from M30. So we are now inside a big range, right? So we are currently trading the range. I don't have an edge in the middle. I want to look for sell here and buy here, of course, until eventually this range is broken downward or upward, right? But as long as we are trading inside it, we are trading the range. So while waiting for the bulls to take over, here we go. Okay, so as long as it's below the mean or below the middle line, we can enter a buy around the lower band, right? And here we go, the bulls took over again here, okay, by breaking above the last high. So I'm waiting for a very similar scenario now. For example, if this happens, it would be great. I'll be also entering like one more buy, and vice versa. The bears took over here. Okay, could have entered the sell, and like this is it, buy, sell, buy, and like this is it. And like I told you that we're applying the same logic. This is our last low, waiting for its break downward, and then we can sell. The stop loss would be above the previous high. We target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, and this is it. Price reject the resistance. And like as you can see, this is a clean example of the power of zooming in from higher time frame to a lower time frame. Daily inside the range, around the resistance, looking for sell setups. We zoomed in, waiting for the last low, of course, like that, and it depends on you on your training plan. But this is it. And this is how simple it is, and you can enter. Okay, so like while I'm entering a sell, I have an edge here around the resistance. So from TA, from technical analysis, I have my edge tick. Second one is I have an edge from a risk management perspective. So like even if I enter a sell here and I hit stop loss, for example, and the second one will hit take profit, so like now I have a 50% win rate. So one stop loss minus 1R, one take profit plus 2R. So I'm still doing great. Okay, so let me delete everything. Okay, so this is it. Now applying the same logic. I don't want to buy here immediately. I'm waiting for the price to approach this support area, just like here, and then I'll be looking for a buy. Okay, and you can even now draw a trend line to show you the overall flow and so on. Next, on GBP JPY. So now we are looking for a sell setup, and let's check it out. Let's check why. Okay. Hello, Cam. Hope you're doing good. Manoj asked. Okay, I'm not really sure where you saw this comment because I keep checking the comments. Okay. Can you please explain how we should start to make our supply and resistance zones and how you find the supply and demand zones? Fantastic. Okay, we will do it. Let me finish the Forex pairs first. Okay, I finish the Forex pairs first and then I will go over it. Okay, fantastic, Alden. You're more than welcome. Okay, imagine a trader is Euro JPY bullish and has reason to be, but suspects an FP news tomorrow and USD JPY might interrupt or destroy the trade. How much does that happen? Does that what happens enter market impact your thinking? Okay, so fantastic question. I answered this one now, and like when I finish the forex pairs, I will answer this one for Manoj. Okay, so like it all depends on you if you want to take into consideration the news or not. Okay, so and it all depends also because like when you are building your trading plan, your strategies, right? So you were back testing it. So it depends if while you are back testing, like if you are taking news into consideration. If not, then you don't really need to keep an eye on it while trading live because the results that you made previously through the back test, 100 trades, let's say 50 wins like with 2R, 50 losses with 1R, like it's like regardless of the news or not, right? So this is first. Next, okay, and like next, and at least in my opinion, what I personally do, okay, so like now, let's say I'm looking for a sell, and like we have high impact news tomorrow. Okay, so like what I usually do is so today is still fine. Today, like if I get a trade activated, I enter it. But tomorrow, before a couple of hours of the news, I stop entering new trades. So anyway, since we have GBP JPY here, okay, let's take an example here. So here we are looking for a sell setup. Like why? I show you why in it. Like now, since we are going over it, and I explain about the news. Okay, so now in GPGPY, we're around a resistance area. It's also a supply zone as we had an aggressive move down from here. We injected the supply. If we zoom into daily time frame, we see that we are currently overall bearish. We have our impulse, correction, impulse, and we are currently in an overextended correction movement. So as long as we don't break above this high here, we are still bearish and we are still looking for sell setups. Unless we break above it, above the resistance, above this high, then momentum would be shifted and we'll be looking for boundary. That it would be an impulse correction. Impulse correction will be looking for a trend following buy. Okay, that's how you take it step by step. For now, we're around the resistance, around the supply here also because we have an aggressive movement down from it. This one is still fresh, like it is the first time that the price is testing it. That's why we are still looking, okay, looking for sell setups. So we zoom into lower time frames, blah 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 as usual, and we have this area here, and now we're expecting at least a correction, or it might be a full reversal. But we're looking for sell setups anyway on lower time frames. If I zoom into M30 time frame, I can see that I'm currently inside this impulse movement. Inside it, we have correction, impulse, and so on. So I'm speculating a reversal, and this might be the next rejection area. So I want my trade to reach at least 1 hour to move my stop loss to break even before reaching this next rejection. So what I do is, if we see this break here, I'll be entering a sell. Stop loss would be above the previous high, which like most probably would be here if we see this movement, and this would be the last high. And I target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, but I wanted to reach 1 hour before reaching this trend line that might hold the price up because it is the one showing us the overall direction from from H4. And yeah, so I move my stop loss to break even, and then if we trade higher, it will kick me out on break even, or if we trade lower and invalidate this trend line, then it will hit my take profits. And of course, like later on, once we invalidate this trend line on the retest of it, I'll be looking for a sell setup. Also, as price trades lower, I'll be looking for buy stops here and so on. But let's take it step by step for now. So like now, let's say like today is still Thursday. NFP is tomorrow. Today, if this happens, then I'll be entering this trade. Okay. If like price now gets inside the range, and tomorrow before NFP this break happens, I will personally not enter this trade. I don't trade around the news. Okay. This is first. This is the first case scenario. The second case scenario, if like now I entered the trade and like the price is currently here, right? So like it's around 0.7 R, And like tomorrow, and like let's say after 1 hour we have an FP news. Right? I simply do what? I simply move my stop loss to break even. Right? So I simply move it to break even. Now, if the news is against me, it will simply go up and kick me out on break even. If the news is in my favor, then it will shoot down and it will hit my 2R. Okay, so always think in terms of risk to reward. So if I keep the trade, okay, and the news is against me or in my favor, okay, how much I'm risking in returns in return, how much I'm expecting if it goes in my favor. Okay, so in this particular case, I'm risking what, 0.7R, right, which is from here to here. Okay, but the reward, like for that, let's say my target is 2R. Okay, so I'm risking 0.7R, which is not in profit, but price would go up and like kick me out on break even. So I'm risking this 0.7R in profit, and in return I'm targeting 2R, right? But if this trade is around here, so like let's say it's around 1.5 R, right? And I have NFP news now, like in a bit. I always think in terms of risk reward ratio. If it is against me, it will go up like this and kick me out on break even. So I'm risking 1.5 R. However, my target is just 2 R, right? So like I'm risking 1.5 just to make an extra 0.5. So in this case, before the news, I will simply close this trade around 1.5 R, because in terms of risk to reward ratio, this is my reward extra, and this is my risk. So I close it. So always think, like, no matter what you're doing in terms of risk to reward ratio, how much you're risking for how much to make. Okay, so that's basically it for JPY. Okay, so this is the first one. Yeah, the comment isn't showing force. My spam bot is hiding them. Okay, fantastic, Cam. Thank you for letting us know. But yes, this comment appeared, but the previous one that you mentioned about Manoj, it didn't. But anyway, as promised, I will answer it just after I finish the forex pairs. I guess we still have like one or two forex pairs. Yeah, we still have to, but like I'm making it quick because like we still have the indices, crypto, and so on. So let's make it quick. Let's go for USD CAD, and here we go. And like if you remember last week, we were inside this channel from the weekly time frame. It's very, very clean. We have our impulse correction, impulse. We were looking for sell setups here. Now we are approaching the support area. This is indeed a very strong support, as it's the intersection of a horizontal support, as we clearly see, and the non-horizontal support here for overall direction. We're trading inside this channel bullish, so we're expecting this movement. That's why as price approaches it, we'll be looking for buy setups, right? I insist on the word looking because we can still break it down for it to become a resistance. In this case, we'll be looking for sell setups on the retest. We'll have an impulse breaking below the slow correction, and we'll be looking for the next impulse movement down. But let's take it step by step. Inside a range in the shape of a rising, a flat channel, if you want, and we are looking for a trend following buy setup. If you zoom into lower time frames to daily time frame, we can see that we've got a demand zone around this area, so an aggressive movement outward from it. So it's also support, horizontal support, and demand. So this is indeed a very strong zone. So the more this one dives inside the support, in my opinion, the better, as it would be overextended, or like if you want oversold and so on. So if you want, it's like a bow and arrow. So the more like you go down, the stronger the velocity, the arrow would go in the direction when released. So like this is the idea. The more we go down, the more aggressively we can trade higher. Anyway, we've got the idea. We are bearish now after breaking below this low. We have our impulse, a flat correction, currently in this impulse movement, and we are looking for a bullish reversal. The best case scenario, as I mentioned, if we get till around this area, is if we trade a little bit lower, make this new swing high, and then break and then break it upward. Okay, so this is the best case scenario. If it happens, it would be great. Meanwhile, if we zoom into an H1 time frame, we can see that we've got a head and shoulders pattern forming. And the reason why I mentioned this particular one is because even though we are forming this, but I don't want to buy here because I'm overall bearish. And a break above the previous high. This is why I showed you at the beginning that not every high broken upward, right? Just like this, for example, like it would signal a full reversal. Sometimes it's just signaling a correction. So when this happens, it might be just a correction before we go and dive lower. Okay, so this is why I don't want to look for buy stops here. What I'm going to look for buy stops around is if we dive lower from this, then yes, I'll be looking for buy because it will have some room to reach the upper rejection before it has some room to trade higher and reach the upper rejection. Okay, so like this is why I mentioned this particular trade. Vice versa on an AD card. If you check it out, okay, which is the last Forex pair for now. Let me know if you want me to go over a specific one. On AUD CAD, we are currently around the resistance area. We are overall bearish. We had our impulse correction. We are overall bearish, right? Unless we break above this area in an aggressive manner, then it would become a support and so on. But for now, this zone is a resistance zone, and we are looking for trend following sell setups. If you zoom in lower to H4, we can see it better from H1, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so we can see that this one is going flat, which give us an early alert that the potential reversal might happen. Why? Because previously we were bullish, right? We can see it better from H4 if you want. Here we go. So we were bullish previously, right? So impulse correction, right? So the bulls were clearly in control, making higher highs and higher lows. However, starting from here, right, we can see that we've got a shift in momentum. So like if you simply connect the highs, so this is a high, this is a high, right? If you connect the highs, you will see that it's going flat and flat, which is like showing the shift in momentum in a practical way. Until eventually this happens, then we're expecting this, right? So this is it. And like would show you that previously the bulls were very strong, able to make higher highs. However, starting from here, the impulse are going flat, and lately we couldn't trade higher. Of course, it might just be like a consolidation before another impulse movement higher. That's why we don't sell blindly. No matter if you're around a resistance, for now we're just gathering clues that we're around the resistance, so we have an edge if we enter a sell. But I want to wait for extra confirmation. If you zoom into H1 time frame, I can see it here very clearly, right? The range here, and we can also see a head and shoulders pattern, right? So here's our head, left shoulder, and the right shoulder. Here, the neckline is always horizontal, which is covering the entire structure. Okay, so that's what is here. That's why I have my alert around this area. So for now, I'm looking for some setups on AD card, and like that's why it's in red, because like I'm waiting for now I'm waiting for the trigger. So I'm waiting for this to happen. Once this happens, I will enter the sell here, right? My stop loss is like, it depends where, above the previous high, maybe here or maybe here, it depends, right? So, but let's go for this. If this happens, and we target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, which the price can like reach it before reaching the next support zone. Okay, so that's it. This is basically it for the Forex pairs. Let me check. Okay, USD ZAR. Okay, I don't have it on my chart, so like it will take me like a lot of time to do it from scratch. But you know what? I will not put you down. I'll check it out really quick. Okay, so on USD ZAR, okay, I'll do it very, very quickly because like it will take me time to draw everything from scratch and so on. So on USD what you can see is like from a market structure, we know that we are overall bullish after breaking above this impulse correction. We are currently in this impulse approaching this high. We have a resistance here, which is obviously around this area, has been acting as a support, now a resistance. and we also got a support around this area, a support around this area. Okay, sorry if I'm doing it quickly, but like to save time because we still got a lot. So here we go. Okay, so this is a resistance area, this is a support area, and around this area here would be an amazing like zone to look for buy setups. It's also around the round number 15, I guess. Let me draw it and check it out. Yeah. So this is indeed a very strong area, round number support, and we might even dive a little bit lower to fill this demand zone. So and anyway, this entire area is a strong area. This is where we have an edge over the market. We are bullish, support, demand, round number, and so on. So I'm not interested in looking for setups in the middle, waiting for this to happen, or if we retest this upper band, we'll be looking for sell setups. Okay, this is basically it. Like we can see that previously the bears took over here and we traded lower. So this is it for now. For now, I don't really have anything to mention. This is our last high. So if the bulls if the bulls like break it upward, we will have like a bullish movement. But again and again, I don't really want to. Here we go. We have a channel here, and previously the bears took over here. So we have here, of course, you could enter a sell because it's a supply and a resistance area. Okay, from which we saw from weekly time frame. Here we go. Right. So and yeah. So now we're at bearish, and I wanted to approach as much as possible this area here, which is also as I mentioned around the 15. And like the more it approaches this area, the better the setup would be. And yeah, that's it. Oops, we've got a lot of requests. So okay, so you know what? Like I won't be able to do it for now. Okay, I'll go over indices and crypto, and at the end, if I got some time and energy, we'll go over these two. Okay, NZD and ADJPY. For now, let me reply to Manoj. Okay, so can you explain how we should start to make our supply and resistance zones and how to find supply and demand zones? Okay, so first of all, difference between the two is very simple. A supply zone is when we have an aggressive movement down, right, from a one single untouched base. Okay, while a resistance is when we have many failed attempts to break above an area. Okay, so this is a resistance, many swing highs, or like maybe two swing lows, and like this, that is also a resistance, while a supply is one point aggressive movement lower. Sometimes it happens that we have a supply around the resistance, right? So we have a resistance, multiple rejections from it, and for example, now price makes like an aggressive movement downward. So now that's a supply around the resistance, okay? And vice versa, a demand when you have an aggressive movement upward, a support is when we have many failed attempts to break above a certain area. Okay, to draw a support and resistance, it's very simple. If you want, I'll show you an example here since we have it in our chart. So you start from monthly, from like sorry, yeah, monthly if you want, but start from the higher time frames, monthly, weekly, and daily. Okay, and the way to do it is very simple. To draw a support and resistance, you need to draw a random on your chart. So draw it like this and drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. Okay, by connecting two swings, it would be a potential support area. It's fine, it's a support, but it's not a strong one. I usually go for three, and I call it a support and resistance because it can connect two highs, one low, or two lows and one high. Okay, so not necessarily should be connecting three highs or three lows. So I want three swings, two highs, one low, one high, two low, three highs, three lows. It doesn't really matter. Okay, that's why I always go for three. So you start from monthly if you want, and you drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. For example, here we can see one, like we got many rejections from it. If we go lower, we can see it here. But let's do it from weekly if it's because it would be easier for you. You'll be able to see the swings better. Okay. So if you start here, you can connect only one point, but I will keep it anyway because it's the all-time high. So this is it. and like around number 19, it's also a supply zone. Why a supply zone? Because we have an aggressive movement downward from it. Okay, so what I want to look for is aggressive movements that and the price would take a lot of time to like retest it again. So, for example, this is a demand zone as we had an aggressive movement outward, and especially if you compare it to the previous to the previous price action. Okay, we've got a supply zone here as we had an aggressive movement downward. We've got a supply zone here as we got an demand zone here, aggressive movement upward, and so on. Okay, we've got a demand zone here, aggressive movement upward. So you need like two things. The first one is an aggressive candle, right? So as you can see here, this candle when compared to the previous price action is very aggressive and like suddenly pushing in the direction of the next one. So this is indeed a rally base and then a rally again, right? So this is a demand zone, aggressive movement upward. On the retest of it, we'll be looking for buy setups. And vice versa, we have one here, as mentioned previously, also aggressive movement upward. So on the retest of it, we'll be looking for buy stops. Again and again, we'll be looking. We don't buy blindly. It's just a potential rejection area. It's not like it's not foolproof. Okay, that this is it. And inside this movement here, we've got many supply zones. The first one is here, as you clearly see, an aggressive movement down from it. So we need an aggressive movement, right? So if you compare it to the previous price action, that was slow here, and then we shoot lower. And if you compare also here, we had an aggressive movement lower from this area. Okay, sorry about that. So we have an aggressive movement lower from this area on the three test. We'll be looking for setups, and vice versa. We have a demand zone here. Okay, so this is basically it. Now to draw our support and resistance, as mentioned, you draw a line in your chart, drag and drop it to connect as many swings as possible. So if you go a little bit lower, which you show me, which you see me, saw me, sorry, drawing as we've got many rejections from this area, and here we go. Now we have this rejection here. That's why this is a resistance, and we can look for such setups on the retest of it. Okay, like this is why you saw me drawing this like one immediately. Second one I drew, if you remember, is this one here, right? So what you do is you drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. And as you can see here, like we can't really draw anything. Okay, you can draw this one here, right? And like this small one. I don't need like one candle swing. I need a full swing. Okay, so like basically only one here. But if I make it lower, here we go. I can connect many swings. Okay, so here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5 broken upward, and this is it. So now this is a support and resistance. We'll be looking for buy stops around it and sell setups. If you move lower, here we go. This is also a support and resistance. Look at how strong this one is. Multiple rejections here and multiple rejections here, and this is also a demand zone. Okay, so this is basically it. Start from the higher time frame, draw the major ones, then zoom into lower time frames and look for setups around this area. Of course, like it's always good to check the daily time frame of where you currently are in the market. It will also help you put the odds in your favor. For example, now after breaking below these lows here, now we are bearish, and every bullish movement would be a correction, right? Until eventually the last high is broken upward. Didn't happen. We had this break here. Now we are bullish, of course, an aggressive movement, but we are currently inside a range. As you can see, big movement upward, big movement downward, and now we're expecting a bullish movement from this area. Okay, so this is basically it. Hope I tried my best like to keep it as bit as possible, but of course with a short period of time because like I want to go over like the remaining stuff. Um, okay, Fad, I'm very happy that you are enjoying it. Now let's go over the indices. Okay, oops. I've put an alert by mistake. Okay, so the indices are US 500 and so on. So like let's do it real quick. Okay, that's it. Let's go to weekly. And like we also went over it last week, if you remember, for those who watched the previous one. And like again and again, everyone, if you like the content, don't forget to like this video. It will help it reach more traders, and it will also help the Train Not channel. Because like after all, Cam like trusted me and gave me this amazing opportunity to like be among you guys. So like let's say a little thanks to Cam and like this video to help the Trading Nut channel also. So from weekly time frame, we know that US 500 has been overall bearish. We've got an impulse, a correction, and then an impulse movement downward, right? We are currently in a correction phase. As mentioned last week, if you go to daily time frame, this is it. We are overall bearish, and we were speculating that, okay, around the lower bound now, we're waiting for the buyers to take over by breaking above the high, which we also zoomed in, if you remember, to lower time frames, and we were waiting for this high to be broken upward to confirm that the buyers are taking over. We also, if you remember, zoom into H1, and like as mentioned, that this would be an alert that the buyers are taking over from a short-term perspective, right? First, and second, here we go. And like second, this would be from a medium term perspective. So anyway, it happened. The bulls took over, and of course, meanwhile, until this happened, we would be overall like concentrated lower and lower. So now we had this break. We have a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish. However, from a long-term perspective, this is just a correction, right? So impulse, we are currently in this correction phase, just like here previously. Early alerts, major high, broken upward, we traded higher. Then the bears took over again, and we made this impulse movement. So now we might expect a bullish movement, bullish impulse correction before the next impulse movement start. And in this case, the next impulse, sorry about that, next impulse movement would like be expected to around this area, which is a supply, a very strong support also. Look at how many rejections we have from it. Support here, resistance here, support here, and resistance here. Okay, so this is indeed a very strong area around 4.3. Okay, as price rates higher, we have a supply, resistance, upward trend line for over direction, non-horizontal resistance. So we'll be expecting the next bearish impulse to start from this area. But anyway, let's take it step by step, right? Now bullish, looking for trend following buy setups, right? So now we have this impulse, waiting for the correction to end to catch the next impulse. However, we can't really know where the correction would end. It can end now, immediately. It can dive lower, or it can even dive even lower before trading higher. And like for those who use Fibonacci, will know that, okay, this is our impulse. Okay, where is it? Uh, okay, let me go to style, go to templates, and here we go. Okay, so like for those who use Fibonacci, like you know that we might test the 0.382, we might test the golden ratio, we might test 0.5, and so on. So like I personally don't use Fibonacci because like it doesn't really matter to me which chart retracement it's testing. It's just a correction while looking for bad stops. Okay, so because we zoom into lower time frames for extra confirmation and so on. If we zoom in lower, we can see a break above it. We can see this channel, which I drew from a lower time frame, which as you can see from M30 or from H1. So I'm overall bullish, trying to catch the next impulse movement upwards. So this is what I'm waiting for now on US 500, which you can also see everywhere on US 100, US 30, and so on. So this is what I'm waiting for. Meanwhile, okay, we might have an overextended correction by breaking what? By breaking below this area. If we break below it, we'll be expecting this correction, which is a correction after this big impulse. And this big impulse trading higher is a correction from daily. Okay, so this is how you zoom out, you zoom in from higher to lower. Okay, I want to know where you are. A correction of what? Okay, this is the impulse of the correction of a impulse, right? So Anyway, let's keep it simple. So this is it. If we break below these ones, it would be the start of the correction of H4. After this impulse, we might trade lower. In this case, we'll be looking for bust ups to catch the next impulse from H4. So it would be an impulse, correction, and then an impulse again. Anyway, for now, we didn't have the break yet. We are waiting for this possible scenario to happen. Let's see how it goes. We are still waiting for extra confirmation to go long or to wait for a dive inside it before we trade higher. This is a very, very important area, as mentioned previously, that might hold the price down for the next bearish impulse from daily to start. Okay, you are more than welcome, Alpha. I'm happy to see you here. Hope you're doing good. Okay, Lab Euro USD. I've done it before, so I'll not like spend more time on it because like I want to cover like something the remaining ones. But like if you would like when I end the stream, you can watch the recording and it's at the beginning just after the XY. Okay, you can check my analysis for Euro USD. Manoj, you're more than welcome. Yes, now I can see your comment. You are more than welcome. Kirawa, hope you're doing good. Fantastic. I'm glad to see you here. Cheers. Okay, and like the bot here says, don't forget to smash the like button. Let's do it. Let's smash it. So let's move forward, just like a very like similar case to US 500, which is US 100, right? Here we go. So on daily time frame, we know that we are now trying to kick in, right? The bulls are trying to kick in. However, what I don't like about US 100, right, unlike US 500, is we have a resistance here. Okay, well, of course, you can also see it on US 500. We have a resistance here, but you can see it even cleaner from US 100. Anyway, if you zoom into weekly time frame, you can see that here we go. Let me zoom in and show it to you. So this is a last low, right? And price rejected, traded lower again. So if you apply the same logic, this is the last low, and price is rejecting it now. Okay, so like we might even have a movement down from here. That's why we're waiting for extra confirmation. Unless we break up over, it would be an overextended correction before we trade lower again. Anyway, let's focus on these ones. Okay, so what I want from US 100 for the bulls to start the correction, like they are kicking in right after breaking above this high, but I also want a break above the 13K, which is this level here. Okay, if you go to H4 time frame, if you remember last week, we know that US 100 is trading inside like these like kind of like range, right? So impulse, impulse range, broken down with impulse range. Okay, we finally after like look how many times, like 4 or 5 times, we saw a break downward. We finally broke above this area. Okay, so now we are inside this correction, which we saw from US 500 also. Here we go. So what I would like to see on US 100 is this movement and then a break above the 13K. Meanwhile, if we see a break below this area, okay, and it would mean that we might see one more bearish movement, and then we'll be looking for basket ups here. Okay, it would be an impulse breaking above the last high correction before we look for basket ups again. Okay, so like this is it. I don't want to buy here unless we see a break above the 13K, and the bears would prove control again if we break below this area. But the good thing is, as mentioned, now the momentum is being shifted, at least from H4, that we finally see a break above the previous high. And yeah, if we break above it, then we'll be expecting a bullish movement till the upper area. It's just a correction inside a big bearish trend. Okay, so breaking above the previous high, as you clearly see. So if you apply the same logic, right, above the previous high, we traded higher. Now we broke above the previous high, which is here. Okay, so we're expecting a bullish movement, but I want to see extra confirmation by break above this. If you break above it on the retest of it, I'd be definitely looking for buy setups. US 30, the exact same analysis, the exact same one, broke above this, trading higher. This is the next resistance, which is also a supply, which we saw in US 500, multiple rejections from it. Look at how strong the supply resistance is. As we retested, also the upper trend line, also a supply, we'll be definitely looking for sell setups here. Now we are bullish. We are expecting one more impulse moving upward and maybe later on a consolidation here before we break downward and we trade lower, just like what happened here and here and so on. Okay, this is why how it's important to start from the higher time frame to know where you are to feel the overall market. Exact same analysis, zoom into H1, draw this one here, copy paste, offset for it. Okay, so if we see this break here above this, then it will signal that the bulls are ready to start the next impulse movement upward. Vice versa, if we break below this, we would break below these lows here, then it would be an overextended correction. After this impulse correction, we'll be looking for buy stops here. That's it. Okay, Kilowa. Okay, so like, so like Kilowa requested Bank Nifty like last week or the one before it. That's why I have it on my watch list. Uh, Kilowa, hope you're doing good. Oh, fine, man. Fine. Because today we started earlier. This is why I didn't get notification, maybe. Okay, Aaron is asking put the pivot levels on US 100. I don't personally use the pivot levels. Um, Kevin, always love watching you. It's always so clear. I'm happy that you're enjoying it, Kevin. Hope you're doing good. Okay, Cloud, USD, I've made USD before, went over it. So when I now end the session, you'll be able to watch the recording. It's just at the beginning, right after the XY. Okay, so when we end the session, you can watch it. For now, let's go for the last index. Okay, we have a question. Rob, fantastic, Rob. I really enjoy your questions, mate. What are the entry confirmations you use to establish a supply and demand zone so you can enter a trade? Do you use engulfing or pin bar candles at all? Okay, so uh, okay, I'll try my best to answer it in a detailed manner, but also fast to keep the session not small, short. Okay, so, first of all, when you have a supply zone or a demand zone, okay, we don't sell blindly, as I mentioned previously. What I do is I start from the higher time frames, daily and weekly, to know where we are in the market. Okay, so let's say I'm overall bullish. As price approaches the lower area, I'll be looking for buy setups. In your case, your question, if you have a supply zone, so if you have let me delete these ones, right? So if you have a supply zone here, that okay, like what is your confirmation to shoot, right? So to enter. Okay, first of all, is this is from a higher time frame. This is from daily, let's say. Then I zoom into H4, H1. It depends on your trading style, on trading plan, and so on. But you zoom into a lower time frame and wait for the boost to take over again. The way to do it is, in my personal opinion, and that as per my trading style, I always wait for the last high to be broken upwards. Okay, like and of course it's better if we have a double bottom, a trend line break, and so on. So, for example, if you have a demand zone here, and if you are trading lower, right, I'll be waiting, for example, for this high to be broken upward, and let's do it like this. Okay, and we might even have a double bottom and so on. So I just want like to confirm that the buyers are respecting this demand zone, because not every demand zone, like no matter which rules you are using, like to identify the best demand, right? So like no matter how strong a demand is, it can still always be broken downward and price will keep trading lower, or even go a little bit lower, right? Make a big wick before reversing. Okay, that's why it's always important to look for setups. In my personal opinion, I only look for candlesticks hammer, shooting star, engulfing pattern, hanging man, right? No matter what, I always look for candles on higher time frames only, on daily and weekly, and I personally don't use it for entry. Okay, but like if you are comfortable trading the candlesticks, it's totally fine. If you are making good results with it, fine. But like as per my trading style, I always like to see a swing broken upward, because like at the end or from H1 this is a swing, right? But not like maybe from H4 or daily. This is simply what a wick here and, for example, a hammer. Okay, so like from H1 it might be a whole swing broken upward. On H4 it might be just a wick, which is the swing, and then a break above it, which is the hammer, which is the close above the open. Yes, close above the open, right? So this is basically it. But like I only use the ham or like the candlestick patterns on higher time frames just for like for overall direction, okay, or like to see if the price is like if this area is holding or not. But for the entry, I always wait for the last swing high to be broken to confirm that the buyers are finally taking over, because we might also have a hammer here, but like this is still around this high. So I don't want to buy here and price might reject it and keep on trading lower. Okay, so that's it. Let's go. Okay, let me check the comments real quick in case someone asks. Um, okay, last one, US 30 gap at 31. 300 not filled yet. Your view is it's coming back. Okay, US 30. Let me check US 30. Let's to understand what you mean. Oops, we've got so much drawing here. Okay, so let me check the comment to see 31K 300. 31K. Okay, oh, you mean this one, right? So yes, we might still go this low before trading higher. This is a gap, but like as you clearly see, like not every gap like should necessarily be filled. Like sometimes, of course, it will get filled, but like most of the time, like the price might not fill it. But yeah, we might still trade lower because we also have a demand zone here, which is also the gap. Okay, an aggressive movement upward, just like here we have a supply and so on. But it all depends. So, but yeah, like I can't say yes or no, because like I don't predict. I can't really know what might happen. Okay, we just wait for the market to make the first move and we react accordingly. In my opinion, okay, what to look for is this, right? If the last low is broken, then you might have this movement lower. And yes, as you can see here, which is around this area, right? It happens to be that if we trade lower, I'll be looking for buy stops here, and happens to be around this demand and gap. But first of all, like I can't really say that we will have this movement unless I see a break above below this. Okay, so that's like now this is a very important area that like the indices have to decide about if they want to go for the next impulse now, or then like they would like to go for a deeper correction before the next impulse movement start. But yeah, I know what you mean, and yes, it's very possible. Okay, I'm happy that to see you happy, Kiloa. Kevin, you're more than welcome. Let me mute myself and cough. Sorry. Okay, let's continue. Let's go over the last index, which is Bank Nifty as per the request of Kiloa. And last but not least, we'll go over the crypto ones. So on Bank Nifty, like this is what I had from last week, right? So like this is this choppy drawing. So this is basically it. We are overall, let me delete it. Okay, let me check my microphone. Okay, it's working properly. Okay, so we are overall bearish, right? Making low lows, lower highs, low lows, lower highs. We'll be looking for a bearish impulse movement from here until we see a break above the previous high. So we are bearish until finally we break above the previous high, which might be like this. Then and only then we can say that yes, now we are bullish again. And look at how strong this support area is. Look at how many rejections we got from it. Previously a resistance, broken upward, support multiple times. So we might still dive inside it. Here we go one more time, form one more swing, and failing to make a low, instead making a high low, and then finally break up over to start the impulse. But let's take it step by step, right? Not, let's not predict that this, and this, right? So let's take it step by step. Now we are bearish, and as we approach this upper area, we also have a gap here, right? So this entire area here, we'll be expecting a bearish reversal from it. And of course, as I mentioned from the arrow previously multiple times, that if we dive lower again, it would be an amazing area here to look for buy setups. Until eventually later on, we'll have this. Okay, but for now, looking for sell, looking for buy, this is where we have an edge over the markets. Overall bullish, this is our upper band. Okay, so this is where it's proven that we have an edge. We have more probability that the price could go down than up, because previously rejecting it down. So following the same logic, that if price goes up this much, will go down this much, go up this much, go down this much. Okay, so this is that, and I put in simple words. To go up this much, we're expecting a movement lower. If you zoom to H4, as mentioned last week, we had this high here. It's broken upward. Now we might see a correction, just like US 100, US 500, before we see the next impulse movement upward, fill this gap which we saw from the daily. Then we'll be looking for sell setups. Okay, so now we are overall bullish after breaking above this major high, and we might have a correction before we trade higher. Exact same logic, zooming into lower time frames, waiting for like a bullish reversal here, like to answer the buy. Okay, last but not least, let's go over the crypto ones. Total USDT first to feel the overall market, USDT dominance to feel the overall market, and then we'll go over Bitcoin, Ethereum, of course. Then, if you would like me to go over a specific crypto asset, let me know, because like I have a list, but of course I will not be able to go over it all. Like I'm trying to keep the chart as the session as effective, but also as short as possible. Okay, so let me check the comments one more time. Okay, fantastic. Let's go over total as usual, because just like I do with the XY, I start my analysis with total when it comes to crypto to feel the overall market, which is, for those who don't know, it's the total market cap. Okay, it's including Bitcoin, including like all the altcoins and so on. So we are currently trading around like 1.2 trillion. And as mentioned last week multiple times, we have this big impulse movement, a correction, and we are currently in this impulse movement pushing lower. And yes, we can even dive lower. If we check the projection, if you want to go from here till here for the first impulse, if you make a projection for it, look at how low we can still go. Of course, we might not go this low, but like this will give you an idea that yes, the deep correction is also possible till around the next demand, which is around 1 trillion, and this area here, which is a demand zone, as we had an aggressive movement upward from it. So long story short, what I really want to finally call it a bullish trend, right? A shift in momentum from bearish to bullish. What we want is a movement upward, rejection, breaking above the previous high, above this support and resistance, and to finally say that, okay, the bulls are now in full control while expecting a bullish movement. Meanwhile, until this happens, okay, now of course we will be expecting corrections, right? Correction movements, but we can't really say that we are bullish long term. Meanwhile, we can still trade lower, fill this demand, trade higher to test this resistance, right? And then form a higher low, failing to make a lower low, right? And then finally break above this high, finally to say that we are now bullish. Okay, this is what we're waiting for from a long-term perspective, from weekly. Meanwhile, we are bearish, we'll be waiting for the correction movement. If we zoom into daily time frame, I can't really add much from last week. While inside this consolidation, if we zoom into to H4, as I mentioned last week, we're trading inside this consolidation unless we see a aggressive candle close below this area, which didn't happen yet. We're expecting another bearish impulse, an overextended bearish impulse, because we currently made this one here consolidation. Now we might have a reversal or we might have a continuation. Okay, so if we break below this area with a big candle from daily time frame, it will confirm that the bears are taking over again to start the next bearish movement. Meanwhile, we'll be trading the range, upward, downward, upward, downward. Now, here, we'll be waiting for this upward movement. Unless we see this break, then this will happen. Okay? Once we break above this area, we'll still need to see a break above this. And earlier the bulls are taking over. This would be like the confirmation that the bulls are finally taking over to start the correction. Anyway, let's I'll also get more details from Bitcoin, but let's make it quicker. On USDT dominance, like I always keep an eye on it, like total and USDT dominance, because USDT dominance, if we are going higher, that means that traders are like closing like they're transferring their like if you want, like that's what I mean. So transferring the altcoins to USDT. Okay, so I'm selling ADA to USDT. Okay, if you are going higher, then this is why the USD dominance would go higher, because people are transferring their money to USDT, and vice versa. If USDT is going lower, means that traders are using their USDT to buy the crypto, like buying ADA with your USDT. So now USD dominance is going lower, and then the crypto market, the total market cap will be going higher. Okay, and yeah, this is basically it, and we can clearly see that. Here we go. We can clearly see that. Okay, check this out. Okay, you can see total 0 point plus 0.31, USDT minus 0.31 or 32. So you always see like a negative correlation between these two. Okay, so if this one is plus 50%, you will see the USDT dominance like no matter how this one goes up, this one would go down and vice versa. Okay, I have to show you the correlation. Okay, so people are shifting their money to altcoins and vice versa. Anyway, we're around the upper bound now, which is an overbought area. So impulse, what is it? Okay, I'm not really sure what's happening. Okay, impulse, correction. We're currently in this impulse. We're expecting what? At least a correction. Like I'm not saying that we will have this big one, but at least, okay, come on, we need to see this. Okay, so we have a multiple resistance area now acting as support as it's broken upward. But of course, to be able to see this correction, we still need to see a break below the previous low, which I mentioned last week. If you remember, we have this low here and this one here for extra confirmation. We need to see this to finally say that now the bears are taking over to start the correction. If breaking above this, it wouldn't be good at all. If you break above it, it would can also signal the exact opposite of total, that the bulls are taking over to start the next impulse. Okay, so that's it. Now let's go to Bitcoin. We can see things even better. And I posted analysis for Bitcoin for those who are following me on TradingView. And if you aren't, you can find me here, trading.com/u/signalist, or simply search here for the signalist, which is me. Like, if you want to get notified when I post a new idea on TradingView and YouTube, you can follow me on Telegram, which is this link here, because I forward everything from TradingView and YouTube. Sorry. So on Bitcoin, like, because I mentioned it here, so it's easier for me. So on Bitcoin, we had this channel, which I also posted last week, which is, here we go, that we have a short-term, what is it? Okay, so we have a short-term range and medium-term range. We want a break above this entire area for the boost to take over, for a reversal to happen, or a break below it for the continuation to the 20K to happen, right? What happened is price kept trading inside this and then break it upward. That's not enough. We still need to see this. I think that click on play anyway. Okay, so price got stuck inside this consolidation, traded higher, and then reversed this. Then here, okay, I posted a new one, which is this one now, right? So on H4, we are trading inside this big range. Now we are here, right, which I showed you previously. And for the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above this high. While for the bears to take over to start the next impulse movement lower, we need to see a break below this low, which as you can see happened. We broke below it. We didn't break above this. We broke below this and we traded lower. Okay, so we're currently still trading inside the range, right? Up, down, until eventually, because like we can't really trade inside the range forever. So until eventually we'll see a break above it or below it. So we're waiting for this to happen for to say finally that the bulls are finally not even bullish, but just a correction. Okay, what we want is just a correction, right? Because when we trade higher, the 40K is a massive resistance that might hold the price back. Okay, so if we trade higher, this is a 40K resistance. Supply from daily, we'll see it now. The upper trend line here also. So of course, we'll see some reaction here, maybe a drop lower for another bearish impulse movement even lower. Or it might result in a higher low before we break upward and then we can trade higher. But let's take it step by step. We are still here, and this is a massive zone. So this is why price is stuck here, because once it decides where it wants to go, right, it would be massive. So either a bullish movement, okay, so like we've got like got like 30% upward, right? Or like 20-30% downward to the next ejection 20K. So price is like truly struggling here around this area. Look at this range, right? And we are still waiting for the bulls to take over. And as you can see, I have multiple alerts. The first one is if we break above the range, right, and above this high. That's why I have it like a little bit higher. I want to know if we trade till this demand zone here, which you see it. I want to also know for if you want for some reasons, and if you break below this lower bound here, I also want to know because it wouldn't be good at all. Okay, so if you break below this from daily time frame, it wouldn't be good. But for now, the 30K zone is a massive support. So we might probably see a bullish movement. Of course, we can't really know. We want to wait for the bulls to take over. We've got a support multiple times, a demand zone, 30K round number, lower trend line. Come on, 4 confluences that might hold the price up. So come on, let's see if the bulls would take over. If not, it wouldn't be good because like if we've got 4 confluences, 4 clues around this area making it strong and the bulls wouldn't take over, so like when they would, right? So let's see how it goes. Again and again, as I always say, no matter how strong a support, just like here, no matter how strong a support, don't buy blindly. Wait for extra confirmation before you pull the trigger. So what really happened here, as mentioned, we broke below this low here, we traded lower, the bears took over, just like previously the bulls took over here. So what we're waiting for from a short-term perspective, that's why I have my alert here. In case we drop lower, I want to see this, just like here, and here we go, we can enter our buy. Okay, so this is basically it, but we broke below this, we broke below this, so we might even just have a retest before we trade lower. In this case, when this happens, it would be a great buy, just like here. Okay, meanwhile this can be an impulse correction right before the next impulse. Now we are bullish from H4, it would be extended to be finally bullish from daily if we break above this high. Okay, so this is a possible scenario, but anyway, we are still waiting for this high to confirm it, a higher high from H4 to extend it to daily to finally say that yeah, we are now starting the correction movement till this area. Okay, it's a supply zone, a very strong supply zone that's still fresh. 40K upper trend line, resistance area. The 40K is also a very, very strong resistance, just like the 30K support. Okay, fantastic, Kilwa. I'm great that you like the course. Kevin, you're more than welcome. Cheers. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll take like 30 seconds break. I'll be talking for 1 hour, 40 minutes straight now. Like next, we'll go over Ethereum, of course, and like maybe a couple more, a couple more uh, an analysis for altcoins, and then we'll see how it goes. Okay, so let me go over Ethereum and we'll check the comments after it. Let me know if you have any questions. On Ethereum, I don't like what Ethereum is doing now because on Bitcoin, we didn't break below the 30K, which is a support area, while on Ethereum, as you can see, we broke below it. On Bitcoin, we are still inside a channel, right? Which is this ranging channel, just this horizontal channel. While on Ethereum, we are in a falling channel, okay? Which will give you an idea about the correlation between the two. That previously Ethereum was stronger than Bitcoin, right? And anyway, if you want, you can check also Ethereum Bitcoin chart. Okay, and here we go. So we were previously, okay, let me refine this one. Here we go. So we previously know that Ethereum was stronger than Bitcoin, right? So like while Bitcoin was going this much, Ethereum was going upward this much, right? But you can see that starting from here, right? And these lows are being broken and broken and broken. Impulse correction, we're currently in this impulse. You can see that Ethereum is getting weaker than Bitcoin. Okay, which will give you anyway an idea about it, like just by looking at the charts. Anyway, we have a falling channel, right? So now this is our last high. For the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above this high. Okay, we previously had this range, which is obviously broken downward. Now this is our high, and by breaking above this high, it would mean what? The buyers reclaiming the 2K support. Okay, which would be this. Okay, so now it's of course now it's definitely broken downward, which I don't like at all. Okay, but if we trade higher like this and we close above it from daily, it would be great. The buyers would reclaim it. This would be just a fake out, just to go down and fill this wick. And as you can see, like price fill it to the point, right, before trading higher. So which is still fine. But we need to see this, okay? And then we'll be looking for buy stops on the retest, which would be what? Which would be Bitcoin breaking above this area here. Anyway, let me make it appear on daily time frame. Okay, so this is it. So which will be Bitcoin breaking above this, which is what we would like to see. So meanwhile, we would be bearish, and like yesterday, we also know that the bears took over here by breaking below this low and we traded lower, right? So here we go, we broke below it, we traded lower, starting this movement. Now this is our last high from H4 to 4 formed. Now bulls took over here, bears took over here. Let's see if we'll get this break here for the bulls to take over. Let's go for GNT and A real quick because like they are forming a similar pattern. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Hello, Yuda. On your USD, I've already done it. You can when I finish the recording on the stream, you'll be able to watch the recording next. You will see it at the beginning, just after the XY. Regarding GBP USD, I'm not really sure if I can do it because I want to go over a couple of crypto instruments. But yeah, at the end, if I still have some energy, because like it's been like 1 hour 40 minutes, I want to go over like a couple of ones that FEC requested, like NZD-CAD and AUD-JPY. So I'm not really sure if I can do it. AUD-JPY, yeah, yeah. So Ronnie, how many rules like does your strategy have? Like it depends on what you mean by rules, but if you would like to keep it long story short, start from daily and weekly. Look for rejection areas like trend lines, support resistance, supply and demand zones to feel the overall market. Then you zoom into lower time frames, H1 and M30, for example, to look for setups. The setups can be any reversal pattern, right? Like a head and shoulders, double bottom, a trend line break, or like whatever strategy that you are using. Okay, this is basically it. Okay, so on GMT, we were overall bullish previously, of course, after this movement downward, higher highs, higher lows. We can see that the impulse movements are getting smaller in size. Like if you compare it, you can clearly see it getting smaller and smaller, which will give you an early alert that a potential reversal might happen, which is confirmed after breaking below this low. Now we are bearish, right? So anyway, I highlighted it from H4 time frame. Bear took over. Here we go. Now we are bearish. And as I mentioned, waiting for this break to happen, then we'll be looking for boundary test or waiting for it to approach this area because this is where I have an edge, right? So I don't have an edge in the middle. I have an edge here, right? Or here around the lower band. This is our main job as traders for TA, technical analysis, to identify areas where we have an edge. Then we zoom into H1, and this is it. Now we are overall bearish. The buyers took over here from a short-term perspective, just signaling a correction, right? This is important. Not every high being broken upward means a full reversal, okay? No way are in the market. It's a correction alert or it's an impulse alert. So correction, traded higher, rejected this trend line. Now we are waiting for this break. That's why you see my alert here for the bulls to take over. Okay. Meanwhile, we can still trade lower, dive inside this zone before forming a new swing high. Then the luck will update our high and so on, for example, or keep on trading lower and maybe, who knows, break this one lower and keep trading lower. That's why no matter how strong a project is, no matter how strong a support is, don't buy blind. The same analysis can be applied on A. Okay, which I also posted on TradingView, waiting for this to happen to look for buys because this is where we have an edge, or wait for price to approach the lower bound to look for buy setups. Zoom into lower time frame, H1, this is our last high, but regarding ape, I don't want to buy here because it would be like around the resistance. This is our range now, so I don't want to buy here. Okay, if we trade lower and make multiple swings here, I would like to buy around the lower band. Okay, so let's see how it goes. Let's go for one more on dot. We have a demand area here and a support area. From a long-term perspective, just like Bitcoin, if you want to compare it to Bitcoin, look at how clean this is. This is okay. So a channel, low lows, lower highs, and here we go. This is for dot, the exact same channel. Of course, like most probably, this is it. From the long-term perspective, waiting for this to happen, and then we'll be buying on spike outward. Of course, from a long-term perspective. From a short-term perspective, now approaching this demand lower trend line, acting as an horizontal support. We're expecting a correction, but we are waiting for the buyers to take over to confirm the correction to start. If we zoom in lower, we can see that we've got a trend line forming. If you apply the same logic as before, we've got a low broken downward. The impulse movement started. Now waiting for the bulls to take over. This is the last high, which is exactly the same as the one we saw on Bitcoin, right? The upper bound. So if we see this, then the bulls will take over. But for what? For the correction. For the correction to start, here we go, before we might dive lower, before we trade higher. Okay, on rune, around the lower bound, forming like a giant descending triangle like this, right? And around number 3, waiting for the bulls to take over just like previously, above the high, trade it higher, above the high, trade it higher, right? Below the low, trade it lower, below the low, trade it lower, below the low, and so on, right? So now this is the high. This is my alert. That's why my alert is here, because I want to break above it to confirm that the buyers are finally taking over to start the next impulse movement. I go to H4, we are bearish. I'm looking for this to happen, okay? To finally say that the bulls are taking over to start the correction. On Zcash, a very similar analysis. This is it from weekly time frame. I don't want to see this on weekly. Okay, so this is it. We are inside this like giant range in the shape of a descending triangle, waiting for the bulls to kick in here to look for buy setups. Oh, sorry, to buy, because we're already around a massive resistance turned into a support. Of course, can't really know, no matter how strong it supports, and of course, like especially after being tested multiple times, it's time for it to become a resistance. But we can't really know, right? We can still reject it like 10 times, right? We can't really know. That's why we don't predict. Okay, trading is reactive, not predictive. Wait for the market to make like if you want like just like chess, right? So wait for your opponent to make the first move and then react accordingly. So you react. It depends on what your opponent move, right? So this is basically it. And then and in this case, like if the market is chess, the price is our opponent. That's it. We are bearish after breaking below this low, lower highs, low lows. That's our last high. Waiting for the bulls to take over by breaking above this area here. Okay, that's it. I can still like go for as many examples as you want and so on, right? But as you can see, like all of them are forming a very similar pattern. So like it doesn't really matter as long as we cover total Bitcoin and USD dominance Ethereum. So you now got a pretty good idea about the overall market, right? So always do your own research before picking a project. If it's good, like what is the utility behind it? Is there a good utility, right? So like of course search the team also, blah blah blah. And last but not least, when you want to get into a project, buy, and if you believe in the project for the long run, you want to invest in, then and only then go to the chart, wait for the bulls to take over, wait for it to approach a support, a rejection area where we have an edge, then and only then you will be looking for buy setups. Okay, that's basically it. If you have any questions, let me know. It's been 1 hour 50 minutes, so I believe this is it. Don't forget to like this video to help it reach more traders. And as mentioned at the start, if you want, you can follow me on TradingView. Okay, and this is my Telegram channel where I forward analysis there. And like you can clearly see if you want if you want what is it? Okay, at the bottom of this video, you can see you get $100 discount if you want to join to join the HTL family. It would be an honor to have you on board. And then like, feel free to ask me any question on Telegram. You can find my handle there. Feel free to ask me any questions. I would love to support you all. Okay, so that would be it. I'm happy to have you here, everyone, and I'll see you hopefully next week. Best of luck and trade safe.